My name is Ann Vu, and my culminating topic this year is on the evolution of human skin color. So, my research question is has skin color evolved? The reason why I chose this topic was because looking at my skin, I came to realize that skin color was just one of many colors in this world of diversity and a world of cultural, racial, and even biological differences. I realized that my skin color was playing such an important role in our society and our racial perceptions of personality and character, when in reality, skin color is only a product of the absorbance of light and not the reflectance of character. And I also was really curious about why my skin color was this color. Why is my skin tan? Why can't it be purple or green or blue? Surely it was because of my ethnic background, and I would most definitely have been mistaken as an extraterrestrial being had I been born blue, but I wanted to know more. And so by doing this culminating product, I was able to further investigate our diversity and um, explore the theory that human differences in skin color were actually derived from a common root. So our differences in skin color really center around this pigment called melanin. In humans, different wavelengths of light are either reflected or absorbed by this pigment in the very top layer of our skin. Melanin colors both human and animal hair and also the feathers of birds. This melanin sits inside these tiny little grains called melanosomes, and those melanosomes are produced by skin cells called melanocytes. Our genes actually determine what type of melanin is inside of melanocytes. There are two main types of melanin, pheomelanin and eumelanin. Um, Melanin is a pigment that protects us against harmful UV rays and can also protect our sweat glands from damage. Um, because of the deterioration of melanin over time, people do fade with age. The reason why you might see blotchy or uneven skin in older people is because they have either a loss or uneven distribution of pigment cells, and melanocyte stem cells gradually die as you get older. And as you can see here, this is a picture of melanin contained within a melanocyte on the top layer of our skin in the epidermis. As you may know, another key factor that determines skin color is UV light. UV light that's emitted from the sun and contains so much energy that it can actually penetrate your skin cells and cause mutations in the cell's DNA. And since sunscreen didn't exist 50,000 years ago, humans actually used their natural sunscreen, melanin, um, to protect themselves. As I mentioned before, melanin in your skin protects against UV damage by protecting your DNA and forming supranuclear caps to prevent the damage and absorbing UV. And UV light isn't all bad. There's UVA, which is the bad kind, and there's UVB light, which is the good kind that is so critical for the synthesis of vitamin D that starts in the sun. And without vitamin D, we can't absorb calcium from our diet, and we might develop this condition called rickets that could weaken our bones. So under UV light, dark skin actually provided a huge survival advantage because melanin is what protected people from melanoma, the most severe type of skin cancer, and vitamin D deficiency, um, making these people evolutionary fitter and able to pass this trait of dark skin to newer generations. And studies have also shown that strong sunlight levels reduce the levels of folate in the blood. Folate is a water-soluble B vitamin that occurs naturally in a lot of the foods that you eat, like green leafy vegetables and citrus fruits. It was known at the time that if you were deficient in folate, then you could develop anemia, and folate is also a precursor in DNA replication and is highly critical for fetal and embryonic development. So dark skin also not only provided a survival advantage but also a reproductive advantage because melanin in dark skin actually prevented folate from being broken down by sunlight. And as you can see here, this is a map that shows UV light distribution on a normal day in September of 2015. So, in the sunny band of the equator, you can see it's more saturated with UV radiation, and as you fan out, it gets to the color of green and blue, to lighter levels of UV radiation. So the reason why so there's a lot of evidence of natural selection found in the genome. A particular gene linked to pigmentation is a gene called melanocortin 1 receptor, or MC1R. This gene controls what type of melanin is produced by coding for a protein involved in the switch from the production of pheomelanin to eumelanin. When it's activated, it produces eumelanin, and inactivation results in the production of pheomelanin. Looking at the MC1R gene within African populations, there's usually only one particular allele within these populations that codes for darker skin. There's not a lot of variability within the MC1R gene in darker populations. So this indicates that in African populations, there's a very strong negative selection against any alleles that would alter dark skin. And in lighter populations, there's a lot of variability within the MC1R gene and usually less variability in genes that code for lighter skin. So the reason why we aren't all dark-skinned is because over the course of 50,000 years, humans moved away from the equator and migrated up north, where there are much lower levels of UV radiation. In the north, dark skin makes it very hard to produce vitamin D, which, as you may remember, is so important for our bones. And then the selective pressures of MC1R that produce dark skin started to abate. And soon European and Asian populations started showing a greater variation in MC1R, but less variation in several other genes, ones associated with light skin. And skin color gradually lightened as a result of our evolutionary adaptations, and soon the planet was full of a vast palette of colors, from the darker eumelanin rich skin near the sunny band of the equator to increasingly lighter pheomelanin rich skin fanning outwards towards the poles. As you can see here, this is a map showing the human skin color distribution across the world. There's darker skin near the equator, especially in equatorial Africa, as you can see here, but then as it fans out, it gets lighter and lighter. And B shows the relationship between skin reflectance and latitude. The higher the latitude, the more skin reflects, and usually in the equator at latitude 0 degrees there is less reflectance. So my product is the collection of skin reflectance data using a reflectance app called Albedo. One way to measure skin color is skin reflectance, and Albedo is designed to measure how much light is reflected from the skin. I was able to ask a total of 21 people of diverse backgrounds what they believe is their country of origin. I went around and asked some of my family members and some of my classmates and friends where they think they're from. Then I tried to locate these origins by latitude. I entered the latitude into the app and I analyzed the skin reflectance based on that latitude. All of this data was put into Microsoft Excel in order to create two reflectance versus latitude graphs, one showing the relationship between latitude and red reflectance, and the other showing the relationship between latitude and broad reflectance. So this is one of my graphs. This is broad reflectance. I created a regression line and calculated the correlation value, or the value of R, and this way I could determine how strong the correlation is between reflectance and latitude within the group of subjects. As you can see, it's slightly moving upward, so there's a little bit of a positive relationship. So does the red reflectance graph. Another portion of my product is the visual representation. So I printed out all of the subjects' photos of their skin, I cut them out, and then I pasted them into a map depending on their location of origin. I try to increase variability within my group of subjects by asking a couple people from each origin, like there's a couple from Africa and there's a couple from Asian countries, and there's a lot from European populations, but I wasn't able to increase variability within my subjects that much because there are just a lot of people from Europe, and you can see that for the most part lighter skin does occur in the northernmost part of the world, but you do see some dark skin in northern countries and lighter skin in some of the southern countries, but that might have happened because where people are actually from and where they think are from could be completely different, and not everyone knows how many generations they've been removed from their origins, so that might have caused some inconsistencies. So the calculated R value in both of my graphs of my product was very small, suggesting that the linear relationship between latitude and skin reflectance was very weak. Based on these graphs, there was really no significant difference between origin and latitude. However, this might have occurred because the sample size wasn't large enough, and sample size does give a greater power to detect differences. If I could do this again, I would probably ask a lot more people to participate in this product, so there would be a larger sample size, and so there would be more variability. And there is a large difference between the sample size in this data and the sample sizes in published data. That's the reason why published data, you can see there's a really clear difference between darker and lighter populations in different parts of the world. There are also some inconsistencies in the data, including a couple outliers that might have affected the graphs in the data. So this is my works cited, and that concludes my presentation.